Perfect.
So episode 10
is
is
about
about pain and suffering and how we can grow
It's gonna be
into.
a banger.
It's gonna be a banger.
Awesome banger, but it will be good.
All we're gonna do is just beat the hell out of
Beat
each
out
other.
and learn lessons through blood.
So last episode, you were talking and you were just flowing, and I loved it. But as I was listening in, we finished off on how we need to listen better and how we need to have empathy for other people, and if we allow ourselves to learn from other people's experiences, the faster we can do that, the less mistakes we make ourselves. Yes, it's good to make mistakes by ourselves and have that learning experience through pain and suffering, but why not experience a communication factor where you're listening in and watching and communicating with other people to where you can learn from other people's experiences and pain and suffering.
Yep. It is a level of communication. It's something silly. Some guy runs a red light here, right? And he gets hit. Or he walking on Dunkin' Donuts and he gets hit, right? We can learn from that, right? That's a level of communication, whether it probably wasn't intentional, right? But like I seen this and he's showing information to me that when that light is red, I shouldn't go over there. Now, it's better for me to learn that watching him, okay, than for me to do it myself and to go have to get run over, right? But I mean, it's funny, but it's I would say a lot, if not most of our communication is not intentional, right?
Yeah.
Like we're learning stuff just by watching other people do X, Y, Z, you know? Someone's walking out, like last week when it was icy, and someone walks out and they slip, right? Okay, communication occurred because I saw that they almost ate shit, right? Now it's like, I know that it's slippery out there. I didn't even step out. I didn't even go outside, but I know it's slippery based on someone slipping.
But sometimes we're not focused on that thing that we just learned about, and sometimes we need to make that mistake ourselves to actually learn.
Agreed.
Because that person we just might have been like thinking to ourselves, oh, that wouldn't happen to me.
Yep.
You know, and this is where it segues into, okay, we're talking about suffering and pain. Why? Why is pain and suffering good? Why should it be talked more about, especially in today's culture?
Because first of all, it's going to happen, no matter what. No matter how advanced we get, there's going to be pain and suffering. Like no matter how good a life you have, I'm trying to think who's a well-known, like a celebrity that's living as best a life, you know. Kardashian.
Well, are you saying that I'm saying they might not have gone through much suffering, in my
yes.
opinion.
Okay. Right. So let's say Kardashians, right? Because they got money, they got influence, they got power. Was it three sisters?
Something like that.
Right? Well, one of them is going to die someday, right? Right? No matter what happens, no matter how much all this they have, that's going to happen. Well, there's going to be pain and suffering.
No matter how much money they have.
No matter how much money you have, no matter who you are, from the lowest of the low to the highest of the high, we're going to watch our friends, our family, our dogs die at some day, right? And that sucks, but like we should talk about it because if we know what's going to happen, we better prep ourselves, right? But with that pain and suffering, being aware of that is one thing, but how it teaches us is it causes a change, right? So you're sitting there, you're comfortable, right?
Okay.
If all of a sudden I kept continually punching you in the leg, you would move, right? Because you don't want to get punched in the leg.
Sure.
So there's pain. Now, if I was rubbing your leg, we didn't, right? But if there's pain, we're gonna try to adjust because we don't want to feel pain, right? And this is good, right? Because we want to get better. So if every month we're struggling to pay our bills, right? And every month there's pain where the last 5 days a month we got to, cut down our spending. We got to be eating whatever we can find, whatever, right? Okay? That's pain. We should learn from that. Where hopefully next month we don't go through that same pain, right? We should be making changes to avoid that in the future. It'd be like if you got up every morning and you're rushing out of the house, and every morning you slam your foot into the nightstand, right? Like that should happen 1, maybe 2 days. That's it.
Yep.
You should learn from that. And be like, okay, I'm gonna slow down. I'm gonna chill out, like so I don't have to go through that every single day. But you wouldn't learn that if it was kicking a pillow. Right? The pain is what causes change because we don't want that. Kicking a pillow, that's not bad. We don't care. We don't make changes based on that. But pain brings something wrong to our attention immediately.
Okay. So I just got a thought. So with pain, if you think about an example, like elephants, when they're young, they're tied to something when they're being trained.
Yep.
I don't know the exact scenario that this happens, but trained elephants,
Yep.
from a young age, they're tied to something that they very well could break off of.
Yep.
But as they age, they lose that belief in themselves.
Yep.
Because they haven't been through that pain of like, well, this is how I've always lived.
Okay.
So if you apply this to somebody who may have just been slowly, like we talked about instant gratification, delayed gratification.
Okay.
gratification comes in a process, and you have to be patient with it. But also, pain and suffering is not just a instant of a thing. Like you don't get overweight overnight.
Yep.
So it's a gradual process, and sometimes we don't realize we're in a bad spot until, like you said, we get punched in the face, or if it gets built up to a point where it is so vast that we are like, how did I even get here?
Yep.
So going back to the example of an elephant, sometimes we don't realize the pain we're in, or we don't have that immediate punch or pinch that gets our attention.
Okay.
So sometimes we can be blind to the actual learning experiences because we don't go out of our comfort zone.
So we, in like the fitness industry, we see this a lot is people who come in who've either been told they had a bad checkup, or maybe in the point where they have a heart attack, right? It's like, I got to make some changes, right? Well, that heart attack didn't happen overnight, right? It's years of doing things incorrectly. But the pain, that wake-up call, that slap, now they make changes, which is good, right? This is, hopefully we're walking down a better path. But from like I said, a fitness perspective, we see this fairly often, or people like will be hurting for so long where they're in pain always based on how they move. They can't accomplish anything. Like, I couldn't pick up my granddaughter, right? Yeah. And that's not a great feeling, right? Mm-hmm. But then they come in here and then they start getting stronger and they make changes, right? But without this, it didn't matter to them that they couldn't pick up XYZ, but when they couldn't pick up their granddaughter, that was too much, right? Mm-hmm. And then they made a change.
That's painful.
That's painful.
It doesn't have to be, emotionally painful.
Agreed. But that's where pain can be a great teacher, because there's times where if we're not aware of things, we need a wake-up call. And the wake-up call, the longer it goes, generally, the more it's built up, the more painful that becomes. And it is good, because we do have to make changes. Like, there's times we're unaware of bad situations we're in until it builds up to a point.
So, in the ideal scenario, we should be inviting suffering and pain in voluntarily, because then when the involuntary, the pain that is inevitable happens, we're not caught off guard.
Okay.
So how can we invite pain and suffering in a somewhat reasonable manner to where life doesn't catch us on our heels?
Yeah. Well, one is just doing things that we don't do every single day, right? So, like, we shouldn't be day in, day out, we do X, Y, Z for 40 years, right? Mm-hmm. We should be broadening ourselves. And by broadening ourselves, if we're taking on a new hobby or we're attempting whatever, a new workout program, whatever, there's definitely going to be pain because we've never done it before and we're going to do it wrong, right? And that's good. But, like, so say you want to learn guitar, right? We pick up this guitar and we sound just terrible, right? And then after a couple of weeks, we get better. We're learning chords. It's getting better. Well, now we went from not learning guitar to learning guitar. Well, now if we want to learn something else, it's not as scary because we went through the bad notes, right? It's not that hard to try something different. And you know that there's going to be some bad notes. We know there's going to be some struggles going on, right? But because we faced it and we went through it and we're still alive and everything's good, now we learned this skill, it makes it a lot easier to do the next thing, right? But a lot of times we get into places where we just get comfortable and we do the same thing every single day, and it's like, well, there's going to be a time where it's not comfortable. We may as well invite that in by doing uncomfortable things periodically anyways.
Mm-hmm. Growth comes with change. You talk about growing pains. Growing pains have a purpose. And we've talked about this in early episodes. It was our first clip. It was talking about give pain a purpose.
Yeah.
If we don't give our pain a purpose, it's just us suffering for no reason.
Yep.
Whereas if we have the perspective that things are aligning us in the right direction and making us into a better person, even though in the moment we don't feel like we're the better person, we actually feel worse and lesser, that in the long term, having that long-term perspective, that it is going to make us into a better person, a better version of ourselves.
Yeah, like my working out was not great since just December-ish, but I mean, it's a month and a half right now. So, like, when I lifted, like, I was definitely, I knew I was going to be, like, I was hurt for like 4 or 5 days, and I knew it was going to happen, but now I've been, lifting again, and the pain's not so bad, but, like, it was a wake-up call that don't get to this point, right? Make sure that we're staying and doing what we should do, because we're going to pay the price eventually. And like, that was the most sore I've been in a long time. I couldn't comb my hair. Like, my lats were just killed. I couldn't even reach my hand. I was like, oh man, it hurts so bad. But
so with pain and suffering, we need to invite it and not let adversity be the enemy, but be the best teacher for our overall growth.
Yep. And don't feel pain is it subjective, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Yep.
and a lot of times we'll have views of something. This is going to be so bad, and it's like, and then we do it, and was it as bad as we thought? Most of the time, it's not.
Right.
Like I have some friends right now, Nick, or DJ. I think
Yeah.
you met, but they've been doing ice baths. It's like, dude, for the first time, like a minute was just killing me. But he's been consistent now. He's up to 2-3 minutes, right? But
The mind is powerful.
mine is probably, if you've ever done an ice bath, like, gosh, that's just an unpleasant feeling. But because he did it, he became accustomed to it, and he got used to it, and he got stronger, and now he's tripled the length of time he's doing this.
Yeah.
But it's still just as painful as it was. He just has gotten used to that level of pain. It's not like his pain receptors died down. It's like, oh, the water's not as cold today. It's just as cold. It's just as shocking. But he's able to withstand it because he's done it over and over and over again.
So we talk about, what's the title of our podcast? Toe the red line.
Yep.
We're always trying to push the envelope. And with pain is a good way of letting us know we're at that limit. But that limit can grow.
Yep.
Like, we shouldn't be like, oh, that hurts. Like, let's say you ran in eight minutes on the treadmill and you went X miles.
Yep.
Like, you went a half mile or something.
Yep.
Let's just say. You hit that range and it was painful.
Yep.
That doesn't mean that that's all you can do.
Yep.
That is just your limit right now. But that doesn't mean it can't get better.
And it should get better. Like,
Yeah.
if we're broadening ourselves, if we're getting stronger, if we're advancing, like, we should be getting bigger. Like, I mean,
Giving it a purpose.
giving it a purpose. Yeah, and like I said, without the purpose, if you're just up there running for whatever, you know what I mean? Like, I'm not running. I'm trying to think of a good example. Like a pain without a purpose.
Maybe financial pains, like if you're lacking in your budget, but you're not aware that, going to Starbucks 4 times a week is hurting your bank account.
Yeah.
That pain, you're not aware of that pain
Yep.
yet. You have to get to a point where you're like, oh my gosh, I've spent $500 on Starbucks this year. But it's that little increments that you don't notice.
Yep.
If I just took $500 out of your bank account or your savings account and was like, this is your year of Starbucks,
Yeah.
you notice it.
Yeah.
Versus $5 times 4 a week,
But when you see that, when you come to the end of the month and you got no money, and you're like, okay, let me go and I'm going to analyze my spending. And you're looking. So we had the pain, right? The pain was we got no money in our bank account. We look at our spending. We realize we're spending too much money on Starbucks, right? Well, we make an adjustment. We tweak our budget. Instead of going 4 days a week, we go 2 days a week. Now at the end of the month, we have money. We have adequate stuff, right? This is good. Like, so we had the pain, the uncomfort. It caused us to make a change, and now we're in a better position, right? And like, we should be doing that process in everything in our life over and over and over again, right? Like, we're working out. We're just doing a transformation challenge. A bunch of people got on that InBody, and not everyone was happy with it, right? And that's okay. But we saw something, right?
That pain can provide a period of growth.
Yeah, we realize we're not where we want to be. Now we're in this phase, but then at the end of this, we're here. And that's good. And then in a couple months, we do the same thing. And we keep moving because we always want to be going this direction. We don't want to sit. We don't want to sit here.
It's a rinse and repeat.
Yeah.
Life will grab you by the nuts.
Yeah.
And if you don't grab life by the nuts, it's either going to grab you
There's
or
a lot
you're
of
gonna grab
mutual nut grabbing going on.
There's a lot of nut grabbing in life. Now, you're either going to get your nuts grabbed or you're going to grab somebody else's nuts.
Yeah.
You make the decision yourself. And that's where we're going to end off with
That's what's put that
pain
on a
and
hat.
suffering.
Pain and suffering. Grab some nuts.
The
And everything's good.
overall purpose in life is to grab some nuts. Grab the
some
nuts
nuts.
of life.
And just, yeah. But yeah, we're going to have pain. Best get used to it, right?
Yeah.
And not that we should, if we're in a bad relationship or something, like, doesn't mean we sit in pain, right?
Mm-hmm.
But pain is just an indicator something's awry, something's wrong,
Yep.
right? And sometimes things have been wrong for a while, and it takes this moment for us to be aware of all the stuff that was wrong.
Yep.
When we're in pain, make adjustments so we can move past it and go to the next thing.
All right, well, episode 10.
Diaz.
Thank you for listening. Like and subscribe.
I'm hoping that thing is still
I know, I'm really
charged.
hoping to.
Because I don't think it is. But
Thanks for listening, guys. Toe the red line, as always.
booyah.